The Xbox Drive is powered by the You, Me, and Capri Patreon. We want to say thank you to some people, starting with our Diamond executive producers, Slimer Snarf, Lee Navarro, and Jonathan Brown. Also, our Platinum producer, Robbie Bobby Miller. And then to our Gold level patrons, like James Johnson, Jean K, Skinny Matt, Ashley Nicholson, Becky Grockmall, Trucker Sloth, Argo, Ryan Turford, Egg Shen, and Ray Sony Pony Martinez. Thank you everyone for all of your support.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I'm in my car and you're listening to the most horsepowerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford. He's the man on the moose, and on our journey today, we're going to talk about stuff, but I mainly just realized that Ryan's mom listens to this show, so I dedicate this bod to Mrs. Bork. Bod! Jump on into the Xbox Drive. I forgot to say that, bod!
No power greater than X.
Hello, Sean Capri and Mom.
Hi, Ryan Turford and Ryan Turford's mom. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you this fine day, this very cloudy day here in Toronto, I must say?
It's cloudy here, but patches of sunlight just to get the weather update out of the way. The road conditions are slippery as it snowed a little bit. And Ryan, actually on our journey today is I have a dog with me. I'm taking my dog to the vet, and this will be his last show. I'm just kidding. He just needs to get his teeth
cleaned. Oh my God, Sean, why?
Just dark. I don't know, man. But so yeah, Oscar's here. He's kind of just like crawling around back there. I thought he'd stay put in the little bed that I made him, but he's eating all my kids' leftover crumbs that are left all over the back seat there. So that's what's happening on the video. So people should check out the YouTube video. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's definitely, if you had any incentive to check out the video of the Xbox Drive, this week's definitely the week for sure.
He's a cute dog.
It's not very often we have a dog on the show, Sean. I'm so happy that we find, because I don't have dogs, so I don't have any dogs to show you here in my own house, but having a dog remotely in the car with you, I think is pretty special, which is awesome.
I'm going to start picking people up and they can just like hold the laptop on their lap. Maybe they want to jump in with opinions from now and then.
Pretty soon you're going to have Link on the show, and he's going to just like drive in the driver's seat with you. And
oh my gosh, the training drive, like when he's a student driver.
Yep.
It'll be student podcasting. Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be a super smooth ride. Well, speaking of things and segueing away from our talk, we should clean the garage a little bit.
Okay.
That was not as clean of a segue as I was hoping for. So reminder, of course, we're going to keep reminding y'all every week until this happens. But once we hit 500 subscribers on the YouTube page, we are in fact giving away 1 year of Game Pass to one lucky subscriber. So keep on subscribing to the YouTube page. And again, if you haven't subscribed at all, if you're just listening and you haven't really checked out our YouTube channel for the Xbox Drive, it's in the show notes. Unfortunately, we don't have our custom URL yet, but that'll probably be.
It might be by the time people listen to this. I think it probably will be. It should be youtube.com/the Xbox Drive. But if that doesn't work, then yes, the link in the show notes is perfect.
Yeah, this is probably the last week we have to refer to it this way, but it'll be youtube.com/the Xbox Drive going forward. Also, huge shout out and thank you to everyone who came and watched me live stream The Simpsons Hit and Run on OG Xbox last week. I had a ton of fun on last Thursday, and again, we're going to be doing this every single week. So tonight, again, there's going to be a poll up by the time you're listening to this. In fact, I'm going to start putting this up on Wednesday now, where you can vote on what game I should play today. And I'm going to mix in this week some older games and some newer games. And then next week, I think we're going to play like a spooky game because it's Halloween. Halloween's coming up. So I'm going to have to play something spooky next week. But this week, it's going to be like, there's a couple OG Xbox games on there because Buffy once again returns for Joel, a.k.a. Falcon specifically. No, he requested it. He said it needs to come back. It didn't get a fair chance the first time. But I've also got some newer stuff in there. Like one of the games I've been playing this week is definitely on the list as well. So look out for that. Also,
you can't be stopped.
Sean, speaking of live streaming, we did a live stream last week with our friend Donnie Reese from the Xbox Empire on our YouTube page. And you can find that on the podcast feed. It's an Extra Mile episode. It's like 2.5 hours long of us breaking down every single launch game for the Series X and S. So you can definitely find that on the podcast feed, or the video on demand is on the YouTube page if you want to check that out as well. Plus, it's also on the Xbox Empire's feed as well. So whole bunch of places you can check that out. And huge thank you to Donnie for doing that on such short notice too. It was basically that morning we kind of put all this together. So it was super awesome.
It was awesome
on the show.
It was awesome. And I think we kind of had a great conversation about like, is it an amazing lineup? And also kind of look to the future of what does even the next week look like? Honestly, like we joked about it at the end of that conversation about like, maybe we should do another one of those. So that actually kind of brought up, we looked at every single game for that lineup, but then we're like, what's coming out in the next week? And honestly, like I'm kind of compelled to just look at what's coming up next. So we'll see about that. But Ryan, I need to, we need to take a quick pause. I need to go run in and grab something, if that's okay with you. I'm just going to take a quick pause. I'm just going to go see. I've got to make a stop for a second. Hang on a second. Oh, Ryan Turford. You were right. I got the cups. I got them.
I knew it. I knew you were going for the cups, Sean.
I did it. Oscar, get in the back. We're gonna keep going with this podcast, man. You never know what's gonna happen on the Xbox Drive. I got cups, man. This is awesome. They're kind of small though, to be honest. And I wish Craig was on them. But what were you gonna say? Let's keep going.
Are they the same size as? Because I can't visually see them. But are they the same size as like the 7-Eleven cups, or are they smaller?
They're smaller than the one, like the Zelda ones that happened. I guess it was last year or something like that. Yeah, they're quite a bit smaller than that, but they will do, my friend. That's okay.
I'm going to have to go because I think I mentioned this to you before. There's a Circle K, like a 10-minute walk from my apartment. I should probably walk over there because I need to go for a walk tonight anyways to go get some cups. I should probably do that because those cups look pretty cool, I must say.
You should definitely do it.
Yeah. Well, we should probably move on. Let's do a drive-by shout-out, Sean. Let's get the show moving. We got Zero Skill. He commented on our YouTube page and said, so happy to see you guys hit the goal day one. That's like having an achievement pop for just turning on the game. And again, this was on our very first the second video, but the first one after we hitting the gold, which was super awesome. And again, huge thank you to everyone for helping us hit that 100 subscriber goal super quickly. And I love reading the YouTube comments like this. Again, I think you put it best on Twitter, Sean, by saying that one of the best things about YouTube comments is that the people who don't always reach out to us on Twitter have been reaching out to us on YouTube comments. So it's cool to hear from some new faces as well as some of our established fans as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's great to see. And people actually like sharing on other people's YouTube channels. It's incredible. It's like, it's just awesome. And I feel like, I'm in a car. Like, it's just ridiculous. You never know what's going to happen. I could have a dog in it. It feels like video just really makes sense for us, which I really love, man.
I would certainly hope so anyways. So, Sean, let's pop in our 8-tracks. It's time for the playlist. And we played some games this week. So we played a lot of smaller games, but a lot of interesting games. So, Sean, why don't I start with you? What did you play this week?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of anticipating, Watch Dogs coming up here pretty soon. I'm anticipating Assassin's Creed and some of these giant games that we're really looking forward to. So I kind of just wanted to try something that was a little bit on the smaller side. So I played a game called Katana Zero, which people have been recommending to me for quite some time. And yeah, dude, it's a game. It's a very difficult game, actually. I don't know if you got to play too much more of it, but I think that it's pushing back on me maybe just a little too hard. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's actually if I'm gonna play too much of it much more than what I've put into it. But I had a pretty good time with it. It's kind of reminds me of like that Hotline Miami type of quick resume. You die a lot and then you start at the beginning. You got that slow motion and you can swipe your sword back at bullets and have them go back at the enemies and things like that. So it's a stylistic game. It's a small game. I just I don't know if it's for me, man. I kind of looking for something a little bit more chill, which is one of the other games that I've been playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely tell when you were live streaming it, and I thought it might have just been when you were because talking and playing that game at the same time seemed very difficult. Like it seemed pretty hard.
It was hard, yeah.
Especially too, like if you're not fully concentrated on it, I can imagine you just missing little things that might, like completely unravel your experience. I think with that game. So I think if you're gonna play a game like that, I think you kind of have to be all in on it, and even then, it's like.
Even then,
as you said, you can only bash your head against the wall so many times before you kind of have to give up, right? So, I understand. But Sean, what else did you play this week? Because I know you played a bit of another chill game. So what else did you play?
Yeah. Well, I've been kind of like going in and out of a game called Spiritfarer for the last little while. And I think probably the last week I've spent more time with this game than the past few weeks. And it's just a really chill game. It's a beautiful game. It seems like it's a hand-drawn animated type of experience. And you play the role of a Spiritfarer, and it's essentially like guiding, people who have passed on to their final destination, and which seems kind of like a downer, but really what you're doing is a bunch of tasks, and it's just been really kind of chill to just go in there, go find different resources and build up my boat and explore the world and get to know some of these characters. And it's just been I've just lately I haven't really wanted to get into anything really all that serious. So Spiritfarer has been kind of just this palate cleanser for me as I get ready for another, like I said, more Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, and Destiny, of course, is continuing on for me. But both these games are on Game Pass, which is really why I wanted to check them out, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the best things about a game like this on Game Pass, because it is so much more appealing to just pick it up as part of your subscription and download it rather than going out and buying it day one.
Right.
Especially with Katana Zero, because I still haven't checked it out yet. I've been meaning to, I just haven't, because I've been playing a couple of other games that I'll get to in a second. And I really wanted to wait till it was on Game Pass, because I figured it was going to come at some point, and I figured that was the perfect time to pick it up. And Spiritfarer, I know it's a game that a lot of people picked up on Switch, but I mean, it came out day and date on Game Pass, and I'm kind of surprised people went that route if they had Xboxes. But
right.
Yeah, like from what I've heard, that game is gorgeous, and it's a game that I definitely should try at some point. But I'm like you, I'm kind of in a weird spot right now, because again, I'm also kind of in a holding pattern waiting for Watch Dogs as well, but also the new consoles, because I don't really want to start anything big, or I even really don't want to replay games right now either. I'm just kind of waiting for those new consoles to come, because if I want to replay a game, I want to replay it on Series X. When it comes out. Like that's really what I'm waiting for with a lot of this stuff. So again, two of the games I played this week are two smaller games that both came out this week. Both games, in both cases, we were provided codes for review by the publisher, so just keep that in mind with my thoughts on these. But the first one was a game that I was really looking forward to ever since it got announced, which is Shantae Risky's Revenge.
Ooh.
Now, if you've been listening to the show for a while now, you know I'm actually a pretty big fan of Shantae. I love that series a lot. It goes all the way back to the Game Boy Color, but Risky's Revenge was the sequel to the Game Boy Color game that was released on the PS3 and I think the Nintendo DSi back in the day. Like it's definitely an older release, but then it didn't actually get ported to anything until this week. It actually came out on Switch as well as Xbox and PS4 this week, and it was super cool. Again, it's a cheap game as well. It's $10. It's a Metroidvania game, just like most of the other Shantae games are. But what I love about Risky's Revenge is that it feels just like a Game Boy Advance game, like both in look and the way it plays. It has that graphical, like 16-bit look that all Game Boy Advance games did back in the day, because the Game Boy Advance was essentially a portable version of the Super Nintendo in a lot of ways. And I love running around the environment. I love the music in the game. It's all really well done. The world design is really cool. The only thing that I don't really love is the mapping system. As people know, when we discuss Carry On, I'm a little bit nitpicky about Metroidvanias that don't have good mapping systems, because I don't always love having to hand mark on my own piece of paper, like maps,
right?
As
of
to
course.
where to go. And
of
and
course,
there
that's
is
not
a
being
map in
picky.
this.
That's just games now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm spoiled by newer games or by games like Super Metroid. So this game does have a map in it, but you don't have it at the start. You have to basically buy it from a vendor. It's pretty cheap with the game, the currency you earn in game. But at the same time, it's just one of those things where even the map itself, it kind of shows where you are on it, but it's very confusing to look at, because there's a lot of underwater areas and a lot of caverns and caves and stuff like that, and those aren't really neatly mapped out or anything like that. So I found myself getting lost a little bit, but I'm having a blast playing it. I've been finding it very hard to put down, and it's a lot of fun. So if you like Metroidvania games and ones that kind of play like the Castlevania Game Boy Advance games, like a melee focused Metroidvania, then I think Shantae Risky's Revenge is going to be up your alley. And again, the price is right. $10 is actually a pretty good price for the game as well. Other game played this week as well. Came out on the Nintendo Switch, I think back in September or late August. I can't remember exactly the date. But was a game that I played during the demo showcase on Xbox that I came away really impressed with, and that was Raji, an Ancient Epic. And I'm so glad that I had a chance to basically play the game now that it's out, because I love the demo from what I played. It basically plays like a isometric 3D mix between Prince of Persia and God of War.
That's awesome.
Where it basically has like the acrobatics of Prince of Persia, because the character you play as, Raji, she is an acrobat, so she's very acrobatic in nature, but the combat just feels like old school God of War, like a bunch of like very combo driven, very environment driven as well. For example, running up and attacking an enemy will do one type of attack, but then jumping off a wall and then slamming down on enemies will do something very different. And as well as you can like twirl around on posts and basically use magical attacks that way. So it got some really interesting combat design. It's a gorgeous game with some amazingly like hand-drawn cinematics, but the cinematics themselves are cool because they're kind of framed like puppets almost, because all the models have like puppet strings on them. And it basically, it's also super unique because it takes place in like Indian mythology, essentially. Like which is not something we see in games at all. So it's actually something very unique to this particular game. And yeah, I've been loving my time with this game too. So I'm so glad that both of these are finally in our hands, especially Raji, because I think that this game would have got buried, I think, with its release period if it didn't get showcased in I think it was the Nintendo Direct when it came to Switch. And I think a lot of people got their eyes on it from there. And then word spread that this game is actually pretty cool. And I'm telling you right now, it's $40 Canadian. It's a bit expensive, but it's really fun. And I highly recommend.
I was jealous you got that code, man. I was legit like, oh man, that's actually good. But you were the right person to play it because you had kind of demoed it during the summer, and you're absolutely the right person to continue to play it. And I'm really glad to hear that. It sounds awesome, dude. But you're right, $40 does sound like a little like, I don't know. We're in the world of Game Pass. We talked about this on the show with Donnie last week. Like we're kind of expecting games like this into Game Pass, for better or for worse. It's just that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and especially with the new consoles coming too, it is, or just with so many games on the horizon, it's hard to recommend at that price right now.
Right.
But it's one of those games where I think by the time I'm finished it, I think it's going to be worth the price of admission for me personally. By the time I finish
totally.
it.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. So we should slam the brakes on this conversation. We got some breaking news. We got lots of interesting news to talk about this week. First one is one we actually talked about and theorized a little bit when we did the live stream with Donnie, but Halo the Master Chief Collection is getting a Series X and S update to it. So it's going to get run at 4K, 120 frames per second in both the campaign and multiplayer. And it's going to be a free upgrade for anyone who already owns the game or it's part of Game Pass. So it's, if you've got Game Pass and you've got a new console, Halo Infinite is not going to be there day one. And this won't be either. This will be on the 17th. But this is going to give you that Halo fix, I think, until Halo Infinite comes out. This is super awesome news, and I'm so excited to replay these games. But Sean, what about you? Is this going to get you hyped to basically replay the game on console? Because I know you've mostly been replaying these games on PC.
Yeah, but not at 120 frames per second, dude. Like, holy crap. It seems like we've just kind of leapfrogged in terms of what our expectations are for Series X. I know a lot of people are talking about, 4K and HDR and everything, but I honestly don't think that we were expecting to see this much 120. You know what I mean? Like, this, it seems like that. I don't know if necessarily they're saying like this is becoming the standard, but it's popping up a lot, and that's the kind of thing that gets me really excited. Even though these are some older games, it's got to take some special magic to take these games from their original 30 frames all the way up to 4 times that. Like, how can that not get you excited to play it again if you're going from the One or the One X into the Series X? But then we keep talking about this. The excitement for Xbox is at a fever pitch. There are more people excited about Xbox now than ever before, and we even see that with this show. More people listening now more than ever. I think there's going to be a ton of people returning to Halo, maybe from like the original Xbox or from the 360 days, or perhaps even coming in brand new. And like, what a showcase, man! Those games are awesome, and now they'll be, within the first week, you're going to have an amazing experience with them, up to 120 frames. I was so thrilled to see this news pop up yesterday.
Yeah, same here. Actually, this is a first for the consoles too, because we haven't really had Halo on console at all over 30 frames. So this is actually really awesome to see for anyone who plays console only. Again, like the main reason I don't really play Halo on PC is I just don't have a souped up PC. And that's not really the type of gamer I am now. So I would love to play these games on consoles at this frame rate. Unfortunately, I'm just not going to have the TV to run it at 120 frames at the gate.
Right. That's a whole other thing.
But even just having the game at 60, I think for me is a game changer.
Didn't Halo 5 run at 60? It must have at least run it at 60, but I'm not sure now that you say it, because like they didn't even do split screen on it, so who even knows?
If memory serves,
I thought multiplayer was 60.
I think they did multiplayer at 60, but the single player was at 30 for sure.
Right. I think you're right.
Big thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't think the 68 frames per second came to it until Xbox One X came out either. But again, I could just be remembering incorrectly. But it's also a weird contrast, too, between looking at this and the newly announced specs for Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, which also came out today, which is it runs at 4K 30 frames per second with ray tracing, or 4K 60 without ray tracing, or 1080p at 60 with ray tracing.
There's so many options. Like the grid that you need for this kind of like, this is welcome to PC gaming. You know what I mean? Like this is all the different, like what are your trade-offs? It's more than just resolution and frame rate, like HDR and everything, just kind of changing things up, or ray tracing in this case as well. There's so many flips and switches that we can get into. And you know what, man? Like the other thing too that I've been realizing as last week I bought a new TV and I've been playing Destiny 2 on it and just like cranking it out 4K at HDR, like all the bells and whistles. It looks great. But honestly, dude, like, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, and I don't know that we've really talked about this too much because I haven't had that 4K HDR experience. Like, I don't think Destiny 2 runs all that great when I've got everything maxed out. Like, this is the thing, and I think it has dips in its frame rate, which is why I've been really okay, and actually more than okay, I've been really thrilled with my One X experience because it's been limited to 1080p. I've never had to worry about any of these extra things. It has the better textures, and 1080p looks as good as it's ever been, and it definitely looks better than on a One S or original OG Xbox. But I just wonder about some of this stuff. If we push these things too hard, like, does it actually hinder the experience? And hopefully that's not the case with Series X, and we'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's because again, they're promising 120 frames, but will it be locked to 120 frames? Like, is it like, when is it going to dip? Like, that's kind of the thing. Those are the kind of the things I'm worried about. But it's good to know that at least this is starting to become more of the norm for a lot of games, or at least I love that launch window games are at least trying to do this. They're trying to with the frame rate.
And the other thing. The other thing that Digital Foundry was saying too is that like you notice the dip when you go from like 30 to 25 more than if you were to say you were to go from like 120 to 115. You know what I mean? Like it's a percentage thing and it's a relativity type of thing. So I think we'll be safe. Like obviously we've got a lot more power in these things, so it should be stable as is. But even if there are dips, I think because we're already starting at a higher frame rate, you don't notice them as much.
For sure. Well, next up, and this is a really interesting story here that kind of came out of nowhere. Microsoft's new Xbox app, which we knew about, it was in beta for a while, will let you stream Xbox One games to your iPhone or iPad.
Yeah, it is an xCloud. It's pretty close. It's still running
streaming
off of your own system at home. Yeah, and I don't know if you had a chance to download the new app on your. Do you do iPhone? I think you're Android.
I don't do iPhone at all. I'm all
right.
Android.
You're Android, so you've been good this entire time.
Yeah, I mean, I have an Android tablet and an Android phone. I don't have an iPhone, but I will say the app got updated on my phone, and I've been able to do this as well on my Android device because game streaming, I think, actually runs a lot better than xCloud does if you're on your home network.
Now it does, yeah.
Yeah, like it wasn't like that when it first launched, but definitely now I'm starting to feel that way. Whereas if you're away from your house, for example, then I think definitely that's when you'd want to use xCloud. But
yeah.
If you're at
it's
home,
too bad like Sony had Remote Play as the name, and I feel like that's just the best name for it. Like to really know what you're talking about. It's like console streaming, xCloud, like blah blah blah. I feel like Remote Play is really what we're talking about. And I had a nearly flawless experience, and I have not had that with this console streaming or Remote Play in the past, as it has been in beta. And I'm just happy that it is on iOS, because now I don't have to use like a leftover phone or tablet that we've got lying around. It's like part of my, like I always have my phone on me, so I'll have a controller at the ready with the little clip, and I can start playing games in bed now, and have that Nintendo Switch experience at home. I haven't had that yet And this update allows me to do that. So I'll be closer to my games now, I think.
Yeah, the only thing that to know about this is that because it's not connecting to a server and then playing off a console from the server, obviously it uses your home Xbox One to do this, meaning that if someone else can't use your console while you're doing this. So
right,
just
like
keep
if you were
that
to
in
turn on
mind.
your TV, it would be showing the exact same thing on your TV as it shows on your phone.
Exactly. And I know like some people miss that because I saw some people tweeting yesterday when this got announced being like, me and my brother tried to sign in at the same time and it won't work. It'll only let us, it's because it's not supposed to let you do that.
Right,
so,
right.
And I'm going to bring in a question we actually got from Discord, Sean, because this kind of relates to this talk. And this is actually from Brent. And Brent asks, what do you think the odds are of xCloud coming to iOS? We are due for new phones and this might flip me to Android. Big maybe. We have 5 iOS devices in our houses. So obviously things like family management and other things are not ideal if they want to switch. So Brent, here's the thing. I think I actually have some good news for you because I think it was Phil Spencer who confirmed that they are actually working towards making an xCloud app that is browser-based, similar to Amazon Luna's program, which essentially means that they won't have to have an app that does all of the purchasing and it won't be like an app that does everything in the app itself. It'll basically be an app that when you launches it, it'll go to a website through your web browser that will then allow you to play through xCloud on your device. Which,
if that's even a possibility, like why doesn't Apple just go like, okay, just do it through your app? You know what I mean? Like if they're gonna work around it with something as simple as a internet browser, it's like just do it, man. And I know like that solution has been rolling around and people are like, well, there's technically a browser on your Switch and technically there's a browser on which the Switch one is hidden. It's somewhere deep down in the coding there. But like technically you could probably have, xCloud or whatever it's called on anything with a web browser in the near future.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the idea because it's just on phones and tablets is just supposed to be the start of this. I would imagine that at some point, like Samsung smart TVs are going to come with the Xbox app in it for you to do all this stuff in it. So I would imagine that future is upon us and upon us within the next year or two. But Brent, what I will say to you, and I think you asked this question before this news came out, is definitely give the game streaming a try on your iOS device and see if it's worth it enough. Because then if you don't have to change your whole iOS ecosystem around to get xCloud to work, if this is good enough for you, then more power to you. Because I think, again, like I said, as long as you're not worried about doing this outside of your own home, it's probably a good enough solution for most people. So I would say definitely give that a go with the Xbox app. Well, next up, Sean, we got a couple Game Pass announcements, and these were actually pretty exciting. So first up, Rainbow Six Siege joins Xbox Game Pass on October 22nd. That is the day you're listening to this or watching the video, which is super awesome. Again, it's been out for a while. They've been teasing this all week on Twitter, but they finally announced it this week, which is super cool. But also, Day of the Tentacle, Full Throttle, and Grim Fandango, which we knew they were coming because Tim Schafer had announced via an interview, I think it was back in March or something like that all these games were coming to Xbox. Well, they're making their Xbox debut on October 29th, and they will all launch day and date on Game Pass as well.
It's perfect.
So, lots of awesome games to check out on Game Pass. I'm also interested to see if they're going to change around the achievement points in those games because on PlayStation, they were super easy to get the platinums in. So if anyone cares about achievements, those are games to definitely target. But for me, I love those games.
If you follow the the guides and stuff, they're not exactly walkthroughs.
Well, I was going to say, these are the type of games where I would say if you're going to play them for the very first time, just play them with the guide. Because they very much use early 90s puzzle logic for all their puzzles. They're like, oh, how does this rubber band work with this water bottle? And why do I attach it to a rat? It's why is that even a thing you need to think about?
Yeah,
right?
no doubt.
So I think that's the type of experience where it's okay, that's the type of thing where I'm you should play it with a guide. It's like playing the original Legend of Zelda. It's that's the type of game where it's I think it's okay for you to play that for the very first time with a guide.
Well, and this is the thing that it's actually kind of a good thing that Microsoft is going and buying up all these studios because especially with somebody like Tim Schafer and Double Fine and some of the legacy here is so huge. And you look at now what they've purchased with Bethesda, all of these games and all of these franchises, super historic, just in Game Pass. They're not in some super secret store that you have to go buy. They're not like good old games and it's hidden over there. It's they're for everybody. Like Doom and Wolfenstein and Day of the Tentacle and all these games, historic games, they're for everyone is so awesome. Like for the preservation of games and for the accessibility of games. Like I know a lot of people get a little bit worried about like Monopoly and stuff, but this is definitely a good side of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that they're on Game Pass as well, because these are the type of games that I don't think most people would pick up for full price. But if they're on Game Pass, I think people will play them. And they're great games. I mean, again, like the puzzle logic aside, the stories in these games are great. They're really funny, all three of them. And I think they're all three well worth playing. Even today, I think they're great. So,
yeah, man.
Next up, Microsoft extends the Xbox Elite Controller Series 2 warranties due to a class action lawsuit. Microsoft has extended warranty coverage for all Xbox Elite Controller Series 2 units, with refunds promised to owners who previously paid out for repairs. So, Sean, this doesn't really apply to me too much just because I don't have an Xbox Elite controller, but I know you bought one day one. So how do you feel about this?
I feel awesome about it because I've been having some trouble with my controller. Actually, I've been meaning to talk about it for a couple of weeks now. My A button is kind of going, and I noticed it actually when I was playing Tony Hawk for the most part, because you hold down your A button to basically like crouch and move forward, and then you let go and he jumps. And I was finding as I was playing it that he was just like jumping on his own, even though I was still holding it down. And so my A button is in rough shape, and now I'm finding sometimes I'll press it and it won't actually work. I know a lot of people listening have had trouble with their Elite Series 2. I know specifically Badbit from the Trophy Room podcast. He got rid of his because of that. And we were all kind of screwed because they had a terrible 3-month warranty, and a lot of people are having issues with it. So for me personally, I'm going to be sending mine in for repairs right away, which, like, thank goodness it's almost as expensive as a console itself. It was like $250. So I'm really glad Microsoft is stepping up. Of course, they're doing it like not willingly. They got a lawsuit coming on their hands. But this impacts me to a huge degree for sure.
Yeah, and I think this is awesome news for anyone who already owns these controllers, because this is them definitely doing the right thing, I think. And
right.
I mean, yes, it's a shame that it had to come. Like, this had to come to a head because of a class action lawsuit, but I'm glad
lots of people won't know. That's why I wanted to bring it up here. Yeah, true. People will think that, like Joseph, they'll get rid of it or they'll throw it out or whatever they'll do, and it's just it's a bad situation overall.
For sure. Last bit of news before we jump into the carpool. This was actually an interesting addition to the Xbox dashboard for anyone who live streams directly from their Xbox.
Right.
Lightstream is now built into the Twitch Xbox app. With Lightstream, if you don't have a PC or capture card set up, you can still achieve pro quality live streams on your Xbox, which is pretty cool. So
yeah. I've
never used Lightstream at all because I don't typically live stream from my console at all. I mean, especially because I don't like hooking up my camera and stuff to my console and then having you doing all that stuff on the consoles. And I like having a PC to do all that stuff.
Right.
But this, I think, is awesome news for anyone who does stream from consoles, I think, because I know the live streaming environment on Twitch from console was very limited before, but it sounds like doing a read on some of the new additions that this brings, I think it's going to bring a lot of great elements into the live streaming experience for anyone who streams from console, which I think is a good thing going forward, because I think more and more people are going to start going down this road. As 4K capture cards, for example, remain at the price they are, which is super expensive. Like, we were just looking at purchasing one recently, and they're all like within the $300 to $500 Canadian range, which is pretty expensive for a capture card. So if you can do it all from your console and it still looks great, I mean, and it's in 4K, then, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. No, I think there was a lot more options on the Mixer side of things, and now that that's kind of out of the equation, the Twitch experience has had to be improved. So I'm really happy to see this. I know some of our friends at Quest for Pixels stream from their console, and you're bang on, dude. Like, I'm curious as to the actual video quality feed for Series X. If it will just straight upload 4K, that'll be a huge advantage for people if that's really important for them. Obviously, it has huge bandwidth implications for them as well. You got to have a really high upload speed with your
Sean,
internet
I'm going to
service
stop you right
provider.
there, because I now that I think about it, I don't think Twitch actually does 4K. I think YouTube does 4K, but I don't think Twitch does.
And I wasn't sure if Mixer was set up for that as well. But yeah, like 4K is a big deal, man. Like people kind of just like throw it around like, oh, whatever, 4K, better do it. It's like, that's a lot of data. It's a lot of bandwidth, man, for that video.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 4K files are huge as there is, and then trying to
Exactly.
stream that over bandwidth, it's like, yeah, this has got to be
Yeah,
crazy.
shoot a 4K video on your phone.
Which is why no one but YouTubers does it at this point.
Right.
So, well, let's let some of our friends into the car with us, Sean. It's time for the carpool, and we got some Halloween questions. There's a theme with all of our questions remaining because it is that time of year. We're going to start with Seumas MacIsaac at Famous Seumas. He asks, what games do you recommend playing during the Halloween season? Any horror games on Game Pass that you should check out? First of all, before I give my Game Pass recommendations, Sean, what horror games do you play during Halloween, if any?
The Evil Within is my answer.
All right. So for me, I love horror games. I play horror games all the time, but I don't always save them for Halloween. And in fact, it's one of those things where I play like horror games throughout the year, so I'm not always saving them for Halloween. In Game Pass, you're kind of limited in your selection of horror games. And if you're watching the video, you're seeing me kind of pull them up on my phone, just so I have the definitive list in front of me. You've got stuff like Dead by Daylight, which we talked about on the Xbox Series X and S show. It was an interesting game, but again, I never really stuck with it. But you've got stuff like the Dark Pictures anthology Man of Dawn, which is not as good as Until Dawn was, but I do think it's a worthwhile pickup, especially on Game Pass. I think it's good to check out. Another one, Blair Witch, that I know you weren't really in love with, Sean, but I loved Blair Witch. And I definitely think because it's on Game Pass, and if you're looking for a spooky game, like, why not at least give it a try? And of course, my go-to, whenever anyone asks me for good horror game recommendations, Alien Isolation. It's on Game Pass.
Ooh, yeah, of course.
It's one of my favorite games of the generation as a huge Alien fan. It's the game I've always wanted them to make. And even though it's very, very inconsistent in parts, it's an amazing game for any fan of the Alien franchise or people who like horror games, because the xenomorph is scary in that game, Sean. It'll kill you. And it'll kill you
It's one
a
of the
lot.
best, like, characters, or what do you even call it? Well, best monsters in movies.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's like, and perfectly designed. Like, the blood is acid. Like, holy crap, the teeth, and it's so slick and it's fast, and oh my god, terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, next up, we got Seumas MacIsaac again with another
what?
question. At Famous Seumas, he asks, what horror creature from any horror video game would you like to have as a pet? Don't worry, it's fully trained, so it won't hurt you or anyone else unless you order it to do so. I'm going to go first. So first of all, I'm going to throw two out here, and one of them is from a non-Xbox franchise, but I have to throw it out here because he's so gosh darn adorable, and that's Monokuma from Danganronpa. He's an adorable teddy bear that likes to murder people, and he's also a robot, but he's also super funny and charming, so that's why I think he would make a great pet. But honestly, my real answer is Pyramid Head, because from Silent Hill, because he's got a giant pyramid on his head, and I'm sure he's a very interesting fellow once you get to know him. I think he'd make a good pet. What about you, Sean?
Oh, well, I'll take the carry-on monster just because I don't know if there's really a great answer. Just have this thing like go and taking care of things that are annoying me, or take on all the different abilities. And yeah, I think the carry-on monster is where I'm going with. I think that would be terrifying for all my enemies, and it would make life a little bit simpler. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would normally say the xenomorph, but I think that because of the things you outlined previously, it'd be a little too creepy, I think. To just having you like stalking your ceilings and stuff like that. Even if it's a pet and it's friendly, I'd still be on edge thinking that thing's going to eat me in my sleep. So probably nothing worse.
Yeah.
Monokuma, he's a soft, fuzzy teddy bear. He's very cute and cuddly. You got to have
That's so funny, man.
All right, last question from Todd Oxtra at Toxtra. He asks, what's a horror property that you would like to see made into a video game, and who should develop it? And Sean, you actually put one down on the docket. You said Paranormal Activity. So why Paranormal Activity, Sean?
Well, it's funny because I think that's just that's the horror series that I really, really like. And as I thought about like what the game would be like, it'd probably be kind of boring because so much of the terror happens like overnight when like the girl's kind of like looking at her husband or her boyfriend or whatever, and time is kind of going by. I don't know what the game would be like, but all I know is that movie scares the absolute crap out of me. And I think a lot of other horror like titles and properties kind of have games already. Maybe you'll kind of open my mind to some other experiences, but like certainly a lot of the classic stuff already has like a Friday the 13th or Jason or anything. Wait, does Jason have one? Yeah, he had one.
Yeah, Friday the 13th is his own game. Plus, Jason was in Mortal Kombat.
Freddy Krueger is the other guy I'm thinking of too, and he's had kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's in Dead by Daylight, and so is Michael Myers and Leatherface.
Yeah.
Like the problem is Dead by Daylight robbed us of all of our favorite horror franchises. But I've said this time and time again, I would love to see a modern interpretation of Nightmare on Elm Street on its own as his own game. I think that would make an awesome game where you basically play as these teenagers and you're investigating the mystery of Freddy Krueger, but also you have to like fight off Freddy in your dreams. Like, I think that would make a really interesting game. Like, even if it was something like an Until Dawn or something like that, where it wasn't like combat focused or anything like that, and it was mostly either you evading Freddy or you investigating an environment and learning more about Freddy. Like, I think that would be super cool as a game. And I would love to see that. I mean, we've only had one Nightmare on Elm Street game, and that was on the NES.
Oh, that's why I'm like, I don't know if that counts. Can we still use that one? Because it kind of has one already. But yeah, your reimagining of that is way better.
I mean, Todd Oxtra didn't specify that it hadn't been developed before.
I was complicating things for myself, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you just wanted the bonus points. That's all, Sean.
Yeah, well, because like even Saw has a game, but I would want a better Saw game than we got, because I think those movies are awesome as well. And they, the whole like I want to play a game, like that should be a crazy, terrifying like survival type of experience. Or even like the other end of it too. Like what if you're the cop trying to figure it out? I actually never played the Saw game. I just don't think it was very good. Maybe I heard that it wasn't good.
Well, there were multiple Saw games. There wasn't just one. I think there was like 2 or 3 of them. Yeah.
See, that's why I wasn't even going to talk about it, but there you are.
But yeah, they weren't that great. And I mean, other like I just wanted a sequel to Alien Isolation. That's another one that I would love to see, like a horror game. But yeah, you're right. Like I think they've mined a lot of the really good ones that would make good games, like stuff like Hellraiser or Leprechaun. Or
Leprechaun, that's hilarious, man. Definitely. Or Candyman, even like you could go back to some of those really old stuff,
or like The Howling or something like that. Like there's a lot of really good horror movies, but I don't think a lot of them make good games, and I think that's the issue that we run into.
Yeah, I was thinking Scream too, like where you could make, like have the copycats of each other. Like the Scream movie, I think is really interesting. Yeah, but it all, like honestly, Until Dawn did Scream basically in the way of like it was almost like a parody and commentary on the genre. It was so meta, and I think Scream did that too.
For sure. All right, Sean, we got to go. But before we go, Sean, plugs go.
Yeah, I need to go take my dog in, and I don't even know. This dog is just. He's a cute guy. I'll say that. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants, and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Sean Capri.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. That's TURFORD. You can also find us on Twitter at The Xbox Drive or on YouTube at youtube.com/The Xbox Drive, maybe in about a week or so. But otherwise, just click the link in the show notes. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 163 of The Xbox Drive, and we out. Bye.
I hope you like this episode, Ryan's mom. Bye.